Good morning, Noblesville. My friends, it's Chris Jensen, Mayor. It's great to be with you on this Monday morning, October 26th. Kristen, it's my brother's 42nd birthday, so I'll start by giving him a shout out this morning. Happy Monday to everyone in Noblesville, for all those Noblesville families who are back in action like our kids were this morning, back at school after 2 weeks off. I hope you had a great restful fall break. I know, Kristen, 2 weeks ago, I was coming to you from Amelia Island, Florida. I know you jetted off shortly after that. So hopefully folks got, even whether you went away or just some time at home, hopefully you got a chance to recharge, reconnect with your family and your friends a little bit as we head this final push to the holidays. So once again, I am joined by my good friend, somebody who has a public servant's heart to give so much of her time to the citizens of Noblesville, Kristen Boyce, who owns Pathways to Healing Counseling here in Noblesville. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning, Mayor Jensen. It's good to see you this morning. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful to see you. I'm glad that you're on the show again this morning. And again, I think people underestimate the fact that you give of your time to do this program. And so that means a lot to so many. We average about 2,000 views a week. So that's incredible. And it warms my heart. I know it does yours too. So that we can reach out and talk with folks and meet them where they are in their walk in life here today. So we have a lot of very important topics to cover today. We're going to talk about some COVID fatigue that we're hearing a lot about, and we'll cover a whole spectrum of things. But again, if you have any questions, if you're tuning in today live, share them with us. Write us a note in the comment section if you just want to say hi. Let us know you're watching. I know we always have some faithful viewers that do that. I really appreciate it. Lets us know that you're out there. If you have anything else you want to share with us, you're welcome to do that. We're an open book here on this program. So let's get started, though, in a way that Chris and I look forward to every week and every day, quite frankly, with some square breathing. So I'll let you lead us through that exercise.
So for those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome. Please don't be shy about asking any questions. We're here to be of service. And just like Mayor Jensen said, this is our heart to help and be of service. So please don't be shy about asking any questions. We start off each time we meet with square breathing. And what that is that helps us calm our nervous system. It helps us to mobilize kind of our immunity. So right now everybody's stressed, tired, and fatigued, and so our immune system lowers. We want to make sure we're nurturing our nervous system so we can boost that immune system. So when we feel anxious, we might feel overwhelmed, we might feel stressed, depressed. This is the first step I teach all clients. I practice this in my own life. I know Mayor Jensen has also been practicing this. So we start by inhaling through our nose for 4. We hold the breath for 4, and we exhale slowly out our mouths for 8, kind of like you're cooling soup, or for the kiddos, cooling a cookie. And I invite everybody to start with their feet on the floor. This is a very centering exercise. You can do this any place, anytime, anywhere. When you're first starting out, I recommend doing this every hour. It's like training a muscle. It's like going to the gym. This is more for our emotional wellness. It also has benefits of our mind, body, and spirit. So let's do it together. We'll do a couple of breaths. So inhale, feet on the floor, inhale through your nose. Hold. Slowly exhale out your mouth. You want to get a real good inhale on that intake of the breath so you can get that full benefit of the exhale, releasing all that tension, tightness in your nervous system and your body. So let's do it one more time with a real nice big inhale. Let go. So when you're feeling overwhelmed with the kiddos, you're in the car and they're all fighting or they're screaming, or you just feel stressed in traffic, or you've just maybe had a disagreement with somebody, take a deep breath. And you might have to do this repeatedly for several breaths. So if you see me in my home, I've told this many times, you're like, you really do breathe a lot. I'm like, oh yes, because I want to be calm. I don't want crazy mama. I want to be calm. So the first thing I try to do, it doesn't always happen because sometimes I go unconscious, is try to breathe to help regulate myself, self-soothe, get myself kind of centered and grounded. And now my kids will say, you need to breathe, Mom. I'm like, I know. Thank you for the reminder. So it really does make a difference when we're modeling what it looks like to self-regulate and self-soothe, eventually they start doing it. Believe it or not, they start taking this on, and they learn the first thing to do is breathe when they have something hard. So if they're taking a test, maybe they feel anxious, they feel overwhelmed, they learn the first thing to do is breathe. So I really and truly can't emphasize enough, the more you do it, the more it becomes part of the family system, the more it becomes a part of how you handle emotion, and you're able to breathe through it, connect to it instead of disconnect.
Well, I can tell you, you talk about doing it a lot in the home. I do it a lot in the car. So I'm driving to work most days, I take that moment and take a deep breath. So don't have to do it necessarily at home. You can do it wherever you are, in the office, at home, but I do it in the car quite a bit. So, and anyone who has kids, Kristen, you always mentioned, it doesn't have to be, you can cool the cookie when you're breathing out, put it in their terms and get them thinking about breathing to calm them as well. So thank you for that exercise. Let's talk a little bit. I want to start off here today talking about some emotional fatigue. I think as we go into some darker days, some colder days, we're starting to, I see people starting to let their guard down even around different safety protocols. So I know there's fatigue across the board on different health practices, but there's also emotional fatigue. Could you talk a little bit about what that means, emotional fatigue? And then let's talk about ways to kind of work through that emotional fatigue.
Yeah, and I love that we're having this conversation because it's real. Anytime we go through transitions, seasonal transitions, you're going to notice when the sun goes down earlier, it comes up later, it will affect you emotionally. And it's important we acknowledge that. Plus, we add on COVID, and we have what's not our normal. So, right, we don't have our usual kind of seasonal things. We have to be more mindful. I say kind of wearing a mask is like wearing underwear now. I know that's, but it's kind of how we framed it in the house. It's like, okay, we got to change our underwear. We got to change our mask. And so we start getting worn out by having to think ahead. Like, do you have your mask? It's like, when the kids go out to school, do you have your mask? Do you have your iPad? Do you have all the things they need? And as adults, we're stressed because we're thinking through all the safety protocols ahead of time. We're also emotionally trying to deal with all the changes. And this can be really challenging. Think about changes in general in life, whether they're seasonal changes, job changes, school changes. And with kids, they're constantly changing, because if you think of human development, we're constantly in flux. We're constantly changing. And that changes our moods. That changes how we kind of perceive things as we evolve, as we change. And right now, what I'm seeing is a lot of exhaustion. We're exhausted over the politics. We're exhausted over hearing about it. We're exhausted over the divisiveness. We're exhausted over COVID and hearing the numbers go up. It just seems like, can we have some good news? Can we have something positive? And so there's some steps and ways that I want to talk about today that could be hopefully helpful. First of all, acknowledgement. Let's acknowledge what we really feel. Let's stop bypassing emotions and positiving our way out of it. There's a place for positivity. We have to first acknowledge what we feel. We've got to stop bypassing, stop trying to fix, stop trying to rescue. I wish emotional health was thought of like physical health. It's my mission. If we could change that, we could change so many lives. We could actually start talking about what we feel and acknowledging it and having empathy and compassion. And when we're in our head, we're dead. When we're in our head, we're spinning. We're not making headway. We're stuck. And so the first thing I want to say is acknowledgement. We have to acknowledge what we feel. We cannot heal what we don't acknowledge. So if someone says, well, I don't have a problem with that, guess what? We're probably not going to change it. So if we think of the common addiction issues, if someone says, I'm not an alcoholic, well, chances are they're not going to change it. So the second question I ask people often, and if you ever have therapy with me, it's do you want to change that? Do you really want to change it? So if I say, hey, you are unhappy in a relationship, I said, do you want to change it? And it doesn't mean I end the relationship. It means, do you want to look at your own self to discover what you might have to change? And then, I'm like, well, what percentage of you wants to change it? our motivation might feel pretty low. We might feel uninspired. We might feel unmotivated. We might feel depressed. And so we might say, like 20% of me, that part of me wants to change it and 80% doesn't. Okay, so I'm going to be working with that 20% that does. And someone might say, now 0% of me. Okay, probably not ready to make that change. So we have to say, do you want to do something about it? Because it's going to cause you to get uncomfortable. Change and healing comes when we're uncomfortable. And let's face it, we're all uncomfortable right now. We're uncomfortable. We're uncomfortable. And what I can tell you is through crises, through discomfort, transformation can happen if we allow it, if we're open to it. The third thing I want to say is once we acknowledge the feelings, now we have to build a support system to help us through it. We have to evaluate, do I have a support system in place? And that might look like church, that might look like a support group, that might look like AA, that might look like therapy, that might look like really getting into a divorce recovery group, a grief group. There's lots of resources out there. It might look like having to get out of your comfort zone to try to connect, to have real, authentic connection. It's not masked. We're not pretending. We're authentically connecting. It's really important right now because people feel isolated. They feel lonely. And the first thing we're working on is some support systems. What can we do to build a support network? And then do we need to put that up someplace, like pictures of your friends, like next to your computer? Frame that up, put it on a wall. Family members, support group, coworkers, it doesn't matter. Whoever you feel connection with, having visuals up right now is really important as we're kind of in this more isolated place. Put the pictures up, put them up around you so you see those people that care about you and love you. And it might be a religious figure. It might be God. It might be Jesus. It might be whatever you believe. Something that speaks to you is say you're not alone. Because right now, when we feel fatigued, we feel worn down, we get into this kind of inner child place where we feel like, I don't have any hope. And the next thing I say is start a gratitude jar. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, I just saw that monarch butterfly and this may seem little, write it down. Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful. Or you're out in nature and you see a blue jay, you see a cardinal, you see, whatever you see out in nature, write it down and put it in a jar or keep a journal, whatever works for you, or put it up on a list. Maybe you have a joy list, like what brings you joy? And maybe it's watching your favorite show. Maybe it's petting your dog or going for a walk. Maybe it's learning a new hobby. Maybe you've taught yourself how to crochet or knit or build something or with woodwork or whatever it is. We need that right now to reference when we feel like we're in the dark days. When we feel like we're hopeless, helpless, despair, we need something to grab onto that can give us hope. And then the last thing is walk. Walk. If you're physically able, if you're not physically able, do something where you're physically able to do some sort of movement. Get outside, or if you have a treadmill or if you have a bike, whatever works for you. Walking is like a form of meditation. It can be a form of prayer. It can be a form of connection to what's bigger than you. Move some way, even if it's 5 minutes, and then maybe the next day you do 7 minutes. Do some form of some movement, because we're kind of in this isolated, especially when we make seasonal transitions. Even if you walk around your house, you go, make a loop around your house, even if it's outside, maybe it's inside, or your apartment complex, or wherever you may be, to get some sort of movement in the picture and write it out to get it out. Don't suppress, repress, hold it down. A lot of us eat our feelings, or we binge watch something, or we move away from connecting to the hard emotions. Please don't. You're going to stunt yourself. You're going to keep stuck in what you're trying to avoid. We have to learn to get uncomfortable. We have to learn to connect to those emotions instead of trying to bypass them. So those are some ways for all of us to try to move through to get to the other side. And it's going to be a wave of emotion. 1 minute you may feel some sadness, and you might feel some joy kind of mixed in at the same time. Or you might feel sadness and anger, or you might feel afraid, and you might feel excitement. You're going to have a range of emotion, and they come and go. That's why all these happiness books, I kind of want to blow them up, because it's like, 10 ways to happiness. Well, happiness it's not sustainable all the time. We're not robots, right? I mean, yeah, we all want to be happy, but those come and go. One minute we could be like, I'm singing to the beat. The next minute, all of a sudden, we get a phone call. Boom, I'm in sadness. That's how it's supposed to be. Let those emotions come and go just like the waves. That's why the happiness mentality isn't going to serve you, because it's an illusion. It's not real. You're not going to be happy all the time. As much as we all want to buy into that, it's not true, because we're humans.
Yeah. I want to touch on something that I really like that you mentioned. It's about being uncomfortable. And anyone who works for the city of Noblesville and on our team knows that I thrive in being uncomfortable. But I also know a lot of people don't like to be uncomfortable. I believe growth comes from being uncomfortable. But again, I think that you would probably agree that being comfortable and not making changes is comfortable and the easier way to go forth. Talk about what being uncomfortable may look like for individuals. And then if people are ready to make a change in their life, whether job or whatever it may be, making a change, getting uncomfortable, how could they maybe reach out for help or ask for support amongst what does that look like when they're ready to make a change? Maybe some steps, some tips for them to move that forward.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say you go, because you're in the probably small percentage of people.
Right?
You're in the rare spot that you like discomfort. Most of us want to hang out in our comfort zone because it's safe. It's predictable. We're like, okay, I know what's going to happen next. Here's a couple of things. First of all, connecting to emotion, people don't like it. It's uncomfortable because they didn't grow up. It wasn't okay to feel feelings. It wasn't okay. What's the point? Why am I doing this? We cannot heal. We cannot move through a transition. We cannot feel unstuck without connecting to that emotion. So that's number one. Number two is having conversation. This is something I just had sessions recently about. Here's how we do authentic connection is we say directly with compassion, not direct and manipulative and mean and nasty. We say something like, I love you so much. And we don't use the word but. Feels like we got slimed on. Ew. So I love you. And I feel really sad because I really want to connect with you and you're on your phone. I feel really disconnected from you. Would you be willing to put your phone down so we can have conversation? Okay. That's an example of getting uncomfortable because we don't want to hurt the other person. We don't want to make them mad. We don't want them to get upset with us. And we stay in this zone of not having authentic conversation. We don't show up. We hold back. We pull back. We wait. And waiting is not a bad thing because we can kind of assess, what am I feeling? What story am I making up? So a lot of times we've made up a story about what the other person feels. And so I teach people to bring that to the light. Stop putting things in the dark. Bring it to the light. Now, don't project it onto somebody. I'm going to take ownership of that. So it might look like, I feel really sad, and the story I'm making up is, you really don't like it when I say how I feel, and that makes you really uncomfortable and want to shut down. That's the story I've got going on. Tell me how you feel. So now I'm owning that I've made up the story that they don't like it when I say how I feel. And maybe they don't. Okay, now we can actually have that honest conversation about that and figure out what is underneath that. So we get afraid of deep conversation. And I'm like, we got to change the narrative. We got to stop not having deep conversation. Because when we don't have deep conversation, we don't have connection. We don't have a sense of belonging. We don't have what we feel like are real, true, authentic relationships that we can do hard life together. And that's what we need right now. We have to be able to do hard stuff together in relationships. But if I'm not saying how I really feel, if I'm not really showing up, guess what? It's not going to happen. I'm not going to feel connected to anybody because I'm not really sharing what's going on. Is that scary? Yes. Do I have to be considerate of who I'm sharing with? Yes, because not everybody's going to be a safe person to share with, right? So we have to assess, is that person going to hold the space for me to be able to have my feelings, or are they going to try to bypass it, talk me out of it, whatever? I have to be in a place to self-soothe and be able to say, hey, that's not my stuff, that's their stuff. Okay, what's mine, what's not my stuff? And the last thing is offering up empathy to ourselves and self-compassion. We are so hard on ourselves. Our inner critic is running rampant. I mean, how many times we need to break up with the word should? This is what I want to put out there. We need to break up with the word should. We should all over ourselves. And I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. Okay, I could have changed the should to a could. And let's try on having a little more compassion. And maybe we need to make a repair. We can do that. Here's the bottom line. The more the inner critic comes out, the more shame I have, the more anxiety I have, the more guilt I have, the less likely I am to connect to those emotions and show up authentically. I'm probably going to be in I'm not going to show up as authentically. And we don't connect with masks. We don't connect with not real. We're all humans, and we've got to stop dehumanizing ourselves and acting like we have to have it all together. And perfectionism is just that is turning a blind eye to shame and fear. Mm-hmm. So this is the bottom line. We got to show up and start having these conversations and stop the pretending everything's great, because sometimes it's not. Let's be honest. We're not all sunshines and roses all the time. And when
not everything in life is what Facebook beautiful pictures of your kids.
No.
Come on. Mine are angels.
Yeah, exactly. Right? But we're so ashamed. We're like, I'm the only one. No one's gonna, see that we feel like we're the only ones, honestly. Yeah. And it's true. Sometimes we want to hide this imperfections. We want to hide what's really going on. And when I can encourage people with safe people to build a support system, share what's really going on, even go to therapy. If everybody had a year of therapy, wouldn't it change everything? And there's free therapy out there. Universities offer, graduate counseling programs offer free therapy. It would change the narrative in our mental health. We're in a mental health crisis.
Yeah.
We focus so much on physical health, which is great, but mentally causes a lot of physical ailments, trauma. That's a whole nother conversation. And if we can change the conversation, man, we could change lives.
Yeah. Well, I love what you said, stop shoulding on ourselves, Noblesville. I mean, we got to stop the shoulding on ourselves. So I wanted to be vulnerable and share a quick thing with you about yesterday. So my wife, Julie Jensen, and I have very different communication styles. And so she likes to when she gets frustrated, she shuts down. Is quiet. I, as you can probably imagine, just want to talk to you immediately, constantly. So she was upset about something, sad about something, was quiet for a little while. I, in my head, made up a story that she was mad at me. And so she actually called me out on that, used a little Kristen Boyceism and talked about, no, in your head, you think that you've told yourself that I'm mad at you when I'm just sad about something. So it was a very big moment for us yesterday, Kristen, as we were kind of working through, even in our life, just different communication styles. She's pregnant with baby number 4 as well. So we just got a lot going on in our house. And so it was very much a Kristen Boyce moment, though, where I was kind of creating something in my head. We were not communicating on the same level. So it happens every single day. And we're kind of we need to show some grace and compassion to ourselves and our partners in life a little bit. Going forward. So I just wanted to share that moment with you that you're getting through, at least the Jensen family. So
I love that. That could be a good or bad thing. It could be.
Yeah. No, it's a good thing. It's very much a good thing.
Here's what I want to say about that, because I think it's really important. So what I'm seeing right now, and I know people in the comments are saying trauma. Yes, I think we're in a collective trauma. And what happens is it's a pileup. Okay. So if I have trauma from the past, and then I'm adding this on top. If I haven't dealt with this part, think about if I dealt with all this would be the only thing I would deal with, right? The thing on top. What's happened is it's triggered all the stuff underneath that hadn't maybe gotten dealt with, or you didn't even know was there. And so when we have emotions arise, there's stories that we associate with emotions. So here you are going, this is a great example. You're thinking she's mad, mm-hmm. and she's thinking I'm just sad. Mm-hmm. And had we, like you said, I love this. This is a great example. Said how we feel. If she could say, I feel really sad right now, I just need some space to kind of process it, then you would not know the stories. And if you could go, hey, the story I'm making up is you're really mad at me. And like you said, in real time, we're processing it. This is the key to working through any kind of trauma, because we didn't have an empathic witness relationally being able to do things. A lot of times, when I talked about that pile up, we didn't have someone walking us through what underneath in childhood, what was happening in real time. We didn't have somebody saying, what are you feeling, sweetie? What's going on for you? It's okay. Let it out. It's okay to have your feelings. I believe you. I see you. I get it. That makes sense to me. We didn't have that. And so what happens is then this feels right so heavy, and we have stuff underneath it that is also getting kind of stirred up.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can bring it out in real time and we can say how we feel, that's a great example. We can hold space and say, oh, that makes sense. You feel sad. I'm available when you want to talk about it. If you're not ready right now, that's okay. I'm available. I really, really want to hear about it. I want to hold space for you. That's a different way of responding. What I see a lot of right now is someone will say, I feel really sad. And the person will go, me too, which is not a bad thing. But what we don't ask is, tell me about what you're sad about. We don't ask a question back because we don't know. And then we don't know how to offer empathy.
Yeah. Well, and I think about yesterday, how much time I wasted thinking, wow, oh, why is Julie Jensen mad at me for this? What did I do? Every husband and wife goes through that, right? You're playing that through your head. What did I do to make this situation happen? But if you just would have had that conversation right away, I could have moved on to thinking about other great things, Halloween costumes and all that great stuff that we could focus on those great things. So
how much space it takes up.
Yeah, it takes up a lot of space in your mind. And whether you say when you're in your head, you're dead. Right? You said that earlier. That is such a good phrase to use too. I saw a friend of mine, David, do what you can, not what you used to do, should do, and could do. Absolutely. In the moment, do what you can. I think that's a great way to summarize it there too. So, Kristen, I'm amazed how quickly this half an hour went, but there's a lot to
It went super fast.
That's one of the fastest ones we've done. And we got a lot to get to.
It really is. And I think because mental health is a huge issue right now, and like half an hour talking about it is just not enough. So that's why I want to be of service to change the dialogue, and you do too. And I think, wow, let's just keep the momentum going. Let's keep giving permission for people to talk about it. Yeah. Let's give permission to offer empathy to each other.
Empathy and grace. I love that. So let's close real quick. If someone's right now tuned in or watching this later that is in a crisis moment, and we know people have those, and first of all, you need to not do that alone. Help us. There is help out there immediately for you. Folks are ready to help you. But Kristen, if they need help right now, where can they turn?
Here's the first place to turn. It's the suicide prevention hotline. Please pick up the phone, make the phone call, 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-TALK. If you don't want to talk on the phone, you can text 741-741 at any time. If you're struggling with any domestic violence, emotional abuse, Prevail here in Noblesville is the place to go. And they have a 24-hour hotline. That number is 317-776-3472. And then the overdose lifeline is 211, and you can always call 911. We also have our local hospitals. We have St. Vincent Stress Center. I know they're being maxed out right now at some point because we're in a mental health crisis. Please pick up the phone. They will plug you in somewhere. Community North. We have Valley Vista. I mean, there's all kinds of places across the state that are accepting people. So please, if in doubt, please call that National Suicide Crisis Hotline at 1-800-273-TALK. Reach out to a local therapist. The universities are also offering, the ones that have graduate counseling, CTS, IWU also has free therapy. So it's available out there. Please, or call the 1-800 number if you do have insurance on the back of your card. There's plethora of options for you. So please don't give up. And there's free content if you want out there to help you. There's podcasts. I've got Close the Chapter. There's tons of podcasts out there, books and resources. Please don't try to do this alone.
No. And make sure you join us on Mental Health Monday. That's why we're going to keep doing this and keep having this conversation. So once again, Kristen Boyce, thank you so much. Everyone in Noblesville, stop shoulding on yourself. Spend a little time showing some grace and empathy towards yourself a little bit this week. You are loved. You do not need to do this alone. Hang in there. Go girls soccer on Saturday, state championship, Millers versus Garin Catholic, both Noblesville schools. I have to get that plug in there too. So if you need something to look forward to, focus on that. So Kristen, thanks a million. You're the best. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mayor Jensen.